What is up, guys? Thank you so much for being here. So today I'm just going to talk about the only 3 lenses that you need for your Sony APS-C cameras if you're just looking for like maximum coverage and versatility. Quick interruption because I know that 10 to 20 power zoom just came out for the Sony APS-C cameras and it looks super nice from everything that I've seen, but I did record this video like right before that one came out, and so for my trio I included the old 10 to 18. But I just want to mention that I think the 10 to 18 still has a lot of value, especially if you can find it for like $100 or $200 less than the new lens, because the 10 to 18 has one really big thing that the new lens doesn't have, and that's the optical steady shot. And that's like a huge deal. If you have a camera that doesn't have stabilization, then it's gonna make a much bigger difference to you probably, depending on what you're trying to do, but it's probably gonna be more important to you than having like the sharpest photos or whatever. So just keep that in mind, and let's get back to the video. I want to hop into some more examples and show you guys what these 3 lenses can do in these specific situations or scenarios that I set up. And so one of those is going to be suited more towards the telephoto because I took a bunch of different photos with all 3 lenses, but at something that's more far away, and I did it with all 3 lenses from the exact same spot. So they're on a tripod and it's not moving. Next one is going to be suited more towards the wide angle lens. We're going to do the exact same thing where we have photos from all 3 lenses on a tripod, not moving the tripod whatsoever, but it's going to be in a more like close quarter type environment where the wide angle lens really gets a chance to shine, so you can kind of see how it would look. This third scenario, I'm going to be taking more photos with all 3 lenses, but this time I want to keep the exact same composition. So I'm going to have a subject, and I plan on keeping the same amount of space, roughly above and below them and to the side. And we're going to be actually moving the camera, obviously, to be able to do that. So with this one, we'll be standing way far away, and this one will be much closer. But that way you can kind of get a good feel for how even when you're getting the exact same photo, having these 3 lenses, it's not just there to be able to like reach far away things or get the whole image of something that's close, because these really allow you to get a creative look even when you're getting the exact same photo, but they all 3 give you such different like creative styles depending on what you're trying to do. Alright, so let's just go ahead and get started with like the build and the basic specs of each lens, like what they are. I don't want to get into like super details because I've already done like an in-depth review of each specific lens. So if you are curious about that, definitely go check those out on my channel. So let's go ahead and start off with this lens, the Sony 10 to 18 f4, and it does have optical steady shot, which is a pretty big pro. It also has the constant f4 aperture, which is really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and take off the lens cap and lens hood from all of these. But I did mention it's a 10 to 18 millimeter, and you can see it has a really short zoom range. It just kind of barely pops out there, which is nice. If you do have it on a gimbal, it's easy to balance. It's a simple lens, but it's really kind of like a must-have for your kit because this is gonna cover everything from your wide to ultra wide, and you can still do like some creative portraits if you wanted to, but it's gonna like distort things a little bit, but lots of times that can give like a really cool look, like an added look of something just being really wide. And that's more so on like the 10mm end of things. But even at 18, you're looking at, much wider than normal. This is great for landscapes. This is great for interior shots if you're doing real estate or something like that. It's also my go-to for vlogging because when you're vlogging, yeah, you can do it with like a 24mm or something like that, but you're just gonna be a little bit tight there and people aren't gonna get to see everything around you. And typically if you're vlogging, you wanna be able to show like your environment, make people feel like they're there with you because they can see where you're at and all that. So on the super wide end of things, on that 10mm, it's just really a unique look that you can't get otherwise, obviously. So to me, this is definitely a must-have. Oh, and real quick, this doesn't have any kind of like special custom buttons. It's literally just the zoom ring and the focus ring, and that's it. It doesn't have anything else. It doesn't have any weather sealing, not even like a rubber gasket along the back for like weather resistance. Now, I've never taken it out into the rain, so it's just never been an issue. Even though I have been in like some dusty areas, I can say that it's never been a big issue. I've never had to like stop and clean out my lens or anything like that. And I've had this lens longer than any other lens I've owned. Okay, so lens number 2, this is our medium size one. And for what it is, I think this is still really small and compact because, as you can see, it gets pretty small. And this is the 16-55 f2.8 by Sony, and this is one of their G lenses. And so if you're not familiar with what that means, it's kind of just like the tiers of quality. So this being a G lens is as good as they come for the Sony APS-C cameras, unless you're using like a G Master, which is designated for full frame cameras, but you can still use it on your APS-C. But with that being said, you're gonna get a little bit more features than you did with your wide lens right here. It's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit bigger, but again, it's still very small for what you're getting. It does zoom out a little bit more, but the 16-55mm focal length is just super nice because you're getting that 16mm, which is pretty wide. It's obviously not as wide as this guy, but it's still wide enough to vlog if you needed to, or just for taking some nice landscapes or anything that you can do with a wide lens. But then it goes all the way to 55, which, compared to a full frame, that would be equal to about an 82.5mm lens. And so basically you're looking at that 85mm type of look, which is what everybody loves for portraits. That's like the most common focal length, is an 85mm for a lot of professional photographers just that do like headshots or any other nice portraits. So the fact that this basically goes from a 24mm to an 82.5mm, this fills your entire like mid-range. And so if you wanted to like only have one lens to just be able to walk around and kind of do a little bit of everything, this would be the one. And that's part of why I like it so much. And this is actually my pick for if you only had one lens, which I just did a review on. But with that being said, this lens is great right here in the middle of this trio, because even though it can do everything, it doesn't do the wide stuff as good as your ultra wide, and it's not gonna do your telephoto stuff as good as this guy, which we'll get to in a second. But this is just fantastic for being able to walk around and do a little bit of everything. Also, the constant f2.8 aperture that's in this lens is just really nice for like any kind of low light situation, or if you're really trying to separate your subject from the background. This gives you a really nice depth of field. And you can still get that with this lens, even though it doesn't have a really wide aperture at all, but it's just so telephoto that it still creates a really nice blurry background. But the reason that this f2.8 is also really nice is because it's gonna do much better in low light. Because unlike this lens, this one is not that great in low light. In fact, it's well below average in low light. But this middle lens is just gonna be the most versatile of the three, just because it's gonna be the best in low light. It gives you a little bit of the wide and a little bit of the telephoto, like I mentioned. Plus it's just like not too big, not too small. And this has a lot of custom buttons. Well, it has an autofocus, manual focus switch that you can toggle back and forth. And then it has a programmable custom button on the side. And then two decent rings on here, one being the zoom ring, which is a little snug, but not too snug. And then one being the focus ring, which is very smooth. It's not G Master quality, but they both have really nice rubber grips. And overall, it just looks cool. I like this matte black look more than I like this more glossy black. And this just, to me, looks like it's more high quality. And it should, because it costs significantly more. Now, as for the big boy, and I do say it's a big lens, but to be honest, for what you're getting, kind of like I said with this middle one, for what you're getting, it's actually not big at all. Obviously with the lens hood, and then if you zoom it out, it looks pretty long. But again, for what you're getting, this is very small and compact. I can't even actually believe that they're able to make it this small and compact, because if you were to get this focal range on a full frame lens, it would be like enormous. It would be way bigger, probably double this. On a full frame lens, this would be equal to 105 millimeters all the way to 525 millimeters. So again, that's a lot of zoom range. And this is also a Sony G lens. So again, you're gonna have just more custom buttons. You've got the autofocus, manual focus switch. You can turn the optical steady shot on and off. You have that programmable custom button right here. You even have a lock for your zoom ring, which is really nice. So you can see that I can't make it zoom, but then if I hit that little unlock, then you can zoom it. And that's just nice, because if you're hiking and you're out in the mountains trying to get some wildlife shots or whatever, you're just hiking through and you've got this clipped to you, whether on here or on your belt. But eventually this can just slowly slip out, just from the weight and hiking and all that. And so to keep that just in place, you can hit that lock and you're good. In addition to all these extra features that you get with the G lens, you're also getting that cool, more like matte black look that you get on this one. And also, I forgot to mention, but on this one and the telephoto lens, you do have like a rubber sealing gasket here, or weather sealing rubber gasket, I should say. And it's not like weather sealed. It doesn't say that in the manual for this lens, but it does say weather resistant, which is more than you can say for this guy. But either way, you know, you should probably not be in like heavy rain or anything like that, even if you had one that said weather sealed. But it's just nice to know this can help keep like little bits of dust from getting in there or anything like that. Now, literally the only negative that I could really think of for this lens is the aperture, because it has a great zoom range, but it doesn't have a great aperture. It's a variable aperture, which means as you're zooming, the aperture will change whether you want it to or not. So when you're zoomed in all the way to that 350 millimeters, or again, it gives you that 525 millimeter look, but when you're zoomed in all the way like that, you're actually only gonna be able to go down to 6.3 as your aperture. You can't go any wider than that. But if you're not zoomed in and you're just at 70 millimeters, or again, 105 millimeters, that will allow you to go down to the f4.5 aperture, which is a little bit better. But honestly, if you're doing like portraits or something like that, you can just zoom in all the way and you're gonna get more of that blurry background and more of that subject separation than you even will with the 4.5, just because you're so zoomed in. And then obviously having that optical steady shot makes a big difference, because if you're trying to use something that was this zoomed in without having optical steady shot, I mean, you would struggle. Even with like the camera stabilization that's in the body, it just helps to have that added OSS in the camera body as well. And one thing I forgot to mention about the two G lenses is, since they are a little bit more high quality, a little bit more premium, they're gonna be sharper as well and just have better optical performance, with the 16 to 55 being the sharpest zoom lens that Sony APS-C has to offer, at least from everything I've seen and read and used myself. It doesn't mean that this lens doesn't perform well, it's just that these ones are on like a little bit higher of a level. And one more little thing that I like about this trio is the fact that both of these have a 67 millimeter filter thread, and this one has a 62 millimeter filter thread. So if you got like a 67 millimeter filter, you can use it on both of these lenses without even using an adapter. And then for this guy, you would just need like a little step-up ring, just one of them, to get you from that 62 to 67 millimeters. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're thinking, man, if I was gonna only have 3 lenses, I would have to include a prime lens. And I get it, because I like prime lenses. I've got 3 of them sitting over there on the shelf. And prime lenses are great because oftentimes they're gonna have some features that you can't get into a zoom range, like maybe optical steady shot, or they might be sharper, or they'll have like a wider aperture. They might go down to f1.8 or f1.4. But regardless, if you're discussing like the 3 lenses to have maximum coverage and versatility, not having like the best of the best quality, because yeah, there's gonna be some lenses that are specifically meant to do one thing and one thing only, but they can't do anything else, you know? They can only do that one thing. And we're talking about just your overall best of the best trio. And I legitimately believe that there is not a better trio out there than this, because this wide angle lens is gonna get your wide all the way to ultra wide, and it has optical steady shot. If you want something that's like ultra sharp and you're gonna be taking portraits or something like that, then this one is sharper than pretty much every single lens out there, prime or not. The only one I can think of for Sony APS-C that's sharper would be the Sigma 56. But I mean, you can debate it in the comments down below. You know, it's fine. I love seeing people's opinions, but to me, this is as sharp as it gets. And so even though this one doesn't have optical steady shot, it has all the other performance that you need. So this is like your best one and done. Oh, and this is also gonna be your go-to for your nighttime or low light related stuff because of that f2.8 aperture, and you're gonna get some really beautiful bokeh out of it. And then this is just gonna be like your zoomed in beast because of that 70 to 350 millimeters. And again, it's not gonna be good in low light, but I mean, think about what you can do with this. If you have a wild animal that you would never wanna like go up close to and get a close, more intimate photo, this allows you to do that. Or just taking landscape photos and maybe some street photography, because it just gives you a really unique look. So again, if you're only gonna have 3 lenses, there's just no other 3 lenses that allow you as much coverage and versatility and different type of creative options and looks that you can get with these 3. So I'll be keeping my prime lenses as well, but if I ever got to a point where I had to just pick 3 lenses, as of now, these are the 3 that I would pick. Now, the only one of these 3 that I might change out in the future is this guy on top, the wide one. And that's only because I just recently picked up the Tamron 11-20, and I haven't even really used it yet, but pretty soon I'm gonna start comparing them. And if I end up liking that one more, then I'm gonna swap it out and we'll have a new trio. But as of now, this is it, and we'll see what happens in the future. If you guys have any questions or comments about any of the 3 lenses, if I missed something, you know, you can either go check out those more in-depth videos or just let me know in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to respond. I'm always pretty quick about that. Or you can just say hi, you know, I'm cool with that too. And I also wanted to mention that I'm gonna put links in the description down below. That way all you have to do is go down there and click on the link if you're interested in picking either of these up, and it'll take you straight to where you can buy it. And I'll get a really small percentage from Amazon, and even though it's not much, it's at no cost to you, and it really helps out my channel, so I would appreciate that. And if you like this kind of content, definitely subscribe. Anything that has to do with like lens reviews or camera gear, I've done camera backpack reviews, drone videos, all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested, definitely subscribe. I'll be putting out more videos in the future. But with that being said, I just want to thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.